Thanks for taking my call. Quick question. I heard that after a data breach, sometimes PR firms often get involved to help their reputation. What's their role? How does that work?
I have a question. What is the FBI's role when a data breach happens?
Is there anything I can do individually to protect myself and my family?
You know, one of the greatest things about having this podcast is meeting people like our special guest. Today we sit down with former special agent Scott Augenbaum. Scott was with the FBI's original cybercrime division, and he's a well-respected public speaker, author, and TV consultant on topics like personal cybersecurity education. So he joins us. He has a site, cybersecurity-mindset.com. Check it out. And today we're going to talk about how the FBI fights cybercrime, how that's evolved over time. And we're also going to talk about how to improve security awareness education. How do we, normal people, right, that aren't cybersecurity engineers and that aren't FBI agents, how do we learn it so that it changes behavior? We're also going to address the rising concern of cryptocurrency and the cryptocurrency role in cybercrime. It's an excellent episode. Listen, especially toward the end. So watch this one all the way through or listen to it. I know you're going to get benefit of it, including a special offer that we even have. This is the story of Special Agent Scott Augenbaum and how a cybersecurity mindset works. Come join us as we go behind the scenes of today's most notorious cybercrime. Every time we get online, we enter their world. So we provide true storytelling to raise awareness, interviewing global leaders making an impact and improving our world, translating cybersecurity into everyday language that's practical and easy to understand. We appreciate you making this an award-winning podcast by downloading our episodes on Apple and Spotify and subscribing to our YouTube channel. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Welcome, everybody, to Cybercrime Junkies. I'm your host, David Mauro, and in the studio today, we have former FBI special agent who served with the FBI's original cybercrime division, a well-respected public speaker and security awareness trainer, author, and television consultant on cybersecurity insights, Mr. Scott Augenbaum. Scott, welcome to the studio, sir. It's been a while.
I'm going to ask you a question because I must
Absolutely. You did that last. Wasn't prepared last time.
Show notes. I thought I was interviewing you. So, Dave, thanks for joining me today. I want to ask you a question. I mean, you're on there all the time. We're in the cyber, you're doing an amazing podcast. I love what you do. But I was on 2 years ago. I just have one simple question to ask you. Has the problem gotten better or worse since we've spoken?
Okay. Not to be a consultant, but it depends on how we slice the data. It has clearly gotten worse, in my opinion. Overall, it's the volume of attacks have gone up, but certain things have gotten better in the sense that I believe that international law enforcement has done a very good job disrupting some of the dominance that some of the organized crime units have had. Gotten a better job at breaking up and really hunting down some of the bad guys.
Unfortunately, this would be a great conversation. I don't agree with you one bit.
Really? Okay, well, let's...
Absolutely not.
Well,
this is what's great about this.
I have three examples. I've got three examples. I've got Lockbit, right? Mm-hmm. The dismantling of Lockbit. I've got Black Hat, right? Where they basically did an exit scam, but they had been dismantled in the fall, and their infrastructure was taken down, and a lot of the decrypt keys were given to victims, saved a lot of people a lot of money. And then just recently, Scattered Spider, one of the head ringleaders, 22-year-old lad over in Spain, boarding a flight to Italy, was just picked up, and they were, as you know, they were in tie with Black Hat to conduct a lot of the big breaches that have been in the news, like the MGM and Caesars breaches. So that's what I was basing my assumption on. But I thought that things were
the
overall.
FBI and the Secret Service do an amazing job, and I give credit for that. But it's kind of like when we go back and when we were saying, "Hey, look, we're winning the war on drugs because we make a couple of high-profile."
Yeah, that's a good point.
There was a couple of years ago, I did an interview because one of the leading kingpins in the business email compromise, AKA Hush Puppy, was arrested, and everyone was patting themselves on the back, and they did an amazing job. But let me ask you, are we any safer today?
No,
Absolutely
business email
not.
compromise has gotten worse.
The fact that we got 3 kingpins, it's showing a message that, look, law enforcement will lock you up. However, now all that stuff is out. It's in affiliates' hands.
Right.
It's out of the bag over here. And now that could get into anyone's hand with crimeware as a service where you can buy this stuff. So to me, I think the problem's continuing getting worse. I hate to be negative about it. And that's what really we're going to talk about, because I'm not here to say we have to give up all hope. Because in my world, a lot of the cybercrime stuff could be prevented. I'm so excited that you had me on here again. So let's I promise I'm not going to take over the interview.
No, this is great. I welcome an open discussion. Like, this is great. I mean, my first question I had was, how has it evolved since you first started dealing with it? And we just started on that topic. I mean, to me, what I'm seeing and what is concerning to me, and this is what I want your insight on, is the amalgamation of things. It's the blurring of the lines. You used to have like the Russian ransomware or the Eastern Bloc ransomware gangs, right? And then you had these groups of like kids and script kiddies and social engineering groups. But what we saw in the Caesars breach and the MGM breach was they had combined forces. Right, that was an adversary, a very worthy adversary, right? And now we're seeing. We used to see phishing emails. We used to see spear phishing emails, business email compromise, and then you would hear things like high tech and things like that. But now you have deep fakes and the in combination with other social engineering attacks, and the whole orchestration of it, that blurring of the lines, is much more effective. And that's bad for business, bad for organizations and their security.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little background on where I'm coming from, because some people here might say I have a little lack of empathy. And who do I have lack of empathy for? Large organizations, the information security marketplace, and consultants.
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I've been dealing with this problem for 20 years. And I tell people, look, has anyone here heard my presentation from 10 years ago? And I go, listen, I got nothing new to. I don't have anything new to say. Talking about the same crap day in and day out.
Yeah.
And while you might hear these large organizations who get impacted with ransomware and data breaches because they're in the news, I don't lose any sleep over that, Dave. I'm sorry, because you want to know what I deal with every day? I deal with what I just dealt with the other day, where I had an individual who contacted me because they got tricked on a cryptocurrency investment scam, and they lost $600,000. And when we talk about the 4 truths of cybersecurity, the things that this person never expected to be a victim.
Yep.
Law enforcement's not coming in with a magic wand to fix the problem. There's no reset button. We're not getting the money back.
Right.
Putting these evildoers in jail is really, really challenging, to say the least. And it could have been prevented. And then I was feeling really bad about this guy. I mean, it was haunting me. I mean, he loses $600,000. I haven't thought about him in a couple of weeks. You know why? Because I got a call a week later from someone who lost $5.8 million.
Unbelievable.
These are,
and these don't just, this isn't all clicking on a link in a phishing email. A lot of this, that tactic might be part of the whole scheme, but some of this is based on pig butchering or romance scams. There's a lot of ways.
It's social engineering at its finest.
Yeah.
And now when we sit here and, I was invited to do a discussion on how artificial intelligence is going to be used to fight cybercrime from a couple of vendors. And I was like, hey, man, I'm not the right guy for this, because you know
Right.
what? When we talk about social engineering and, I have a company who goes, hey, this is great. We got an AI-based agent that could look at your emails. That's only a small part of social engineering, Dave. We're
Yeah.
talking about text messages. We're talking about telephone calls. We are talking about social media hijackings. We're talking about malvertising. We're talking about pop-ups. And then I just built out a talk track for an senior living for elders on 24 different types of fraud attempts using social engineering. And then when I go over and I'm sitting here and, I see organizations are selling solution, I'm like, I don't care what solution you buy. If you don't do what I tell you to do for free, it doesn't matter. And it's not even my stuff. I'm not the hero in the story. I don't come across as that. I'm the guy who just...
You're pointing to common sense. You're pointing to reasonable efforts.
But common sense isn't common practice. And we cannot expect that when we put my mother-in-law in assisted living at 82 years old and we give her an iPhone because it's so incredibly simple and say, here you go, Mom, here's everything. And now she's getting text messages, she's getting telephone calls, she's getting emails. Here, communicate on Facebook and everything so you can see the pictures and everything. And now so I hate to say it's not the common sense. It's technology is so easy and simple to use, and the cyber criminals are exploiting it.
Well, what's amazing to me is another aspect too, and you bring this up a lot, and that is, it used to be back when you started, right around the turn of the century, when everybody was worried about Y2K, right? Like that's when I got involved. Like that was supposed to be this horrific thing, and the clock turned, and we were fine. But you had to be kind of technical back then. You had to have some technical chops, it seemed, to really get into the whole hacker space, right? And today, these criminal platforms, now that I've actually seen them, they're plug and play. They work like the best computer software that's on the regular market, right? If not better. And you don't need to be technical anymore. You just have to have criminal intent. And there's a lot more of people like that than there are people with the technical chops.
Yeah. And it's so easy and simple. Let's just kind of go through, because I've spent a little time talking to one of the scammers. And just yesterday, just went over here, got a quick text message. Hi, I'm Diana from Hirewell. I'm contacting you for a job offer. Can I please share the job details? Now, think about this. We're all in this gig economy. We all want to work from home. We get this text message. And what's the first thing that they do for me? They go, listen, we need to contact you on WhatsApp or Telegram.
Yeah,
why
there
are they
you
doing
go.
this? Because they're not based here in the United States.
Right.
And
they
then
want to take you through the regular channels.
It's thing number one.
Rule
And
one,
then-
right?
And then once you get there, they're going to ask, hey, we got this great gig. It's such a simple scam. And I mean, let's even think about it. If my kid, who's 21 years old, home for the summer, is looking for a job, now he goes over there and all they ask him to do is say, hey, this is great. You can work from home. All we need from you is to fill out this application, your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security number. And then at this point in time, they're going to say, hey, we need your bank account routing number so we can put
so we
some
can
money
pay
in
you.
your...
Yeah.
Boom. Right there. No technical expertise required right now. And now you can sit here in some foreign country and be able to prey on U.S. citizens and do this.
Yeah.
This is what we're not hearing about.
Right. Well, because the industry doesn't have a solution for it, right? Like there's no security out of a box that they've figured out that's going to cure that.
Mhm.
And so that's why we don't hear about it. And
And that's
it's
why
really something that is affecting everyday citizens constantly because
that's
it's
why
hitting
I've
them
been
from all
focusing.
ends. It's hitting them. It's on Facebook ads. It's on social media, TikTok, you name it. And it seems like whatever you want, whatever's important to you, they're going to use that to lower your guard and act like they're going to give it to you. And that's
All in
how
the
the
name
social
of
is.
social engineering. And
Yeah.
it's something here that and that's why I've created what I call the cyber secure mindset.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So you have the four truths, and you
Let's
swiftly
just cover them
articulated them
quickly,
before.
because he ever expects to be a victim.
Right.
Okay.
Number one.
Well, I don't fit the
Correct.
victim profile. And if you
Yeah.
have an email or a text or a message, you're going to get targeted. Bad guys steal your stuff. You contact law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't have a magic wand to fix the problem. And
Right.
especially when your kids are victimized by sextortion or your elderly parents lose their life savings. So many of us in the cyber secure mindset was developed, created, because so many of us have to worry about our parents and our kids.
Yep.
And then our business. Putting bad guys in jail is not easy. Bad guys are located overseas. That sounds really depressing. But really, about 90 to 95% of all these bad things that I deal with, I rarely get a call from a victim today, even on business situations, that I can't finish the sentence and go like this. Well, if you just would have done this, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But wait a second. My MSP told me that I was going to be safe. Well, I thought the cloud was safe. Well, I just had a HIPAA assessment. Well, we're PCI compliant. And it goes on and on and on again. And I'm here to say to you that, listen, having a cyber secure mindset is really understanding, having the repetition, listening to what you do. It's not a one and done situation.
Right.
You can't just go like this. This is like health. This is like oxygen. This is like breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a habit, right? It's really
Well, and it's true.
Right.
If you ask me, what do? I try to change behavior. But here's the challenge. How do you change behavior from a world that really all they want is an easy button? Let's think about it. All we want is the easy button. We want 6-minute abs. We want TikTok. When a TikTok video is more than 30 seconds, it's way too much.
Right.
So, and even when I go in, like, I built a customized program for an organization because they wanted it. And I thought this would be really easy because now I can recycle that content. But nobody wants an hour-long training for their organization on how to stay safe.
Right. They all want it in short snippets. Yeah.
Hey,
so
can
how
I
do we
ask you a
solve
question? I want to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Somebody told me that I should be I need to bury the hatchet with TikTok. Okay? And I need to go where the people are to keep people safe. Because there are no cybersecurity influencers who know what they're talking about on TikTok. And if you are there, I apologize. That I should.
There's not that many. There's not that many.
But I should, and I use TikTok because I like recipes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have no expectation at TikTok or Facebook. But I don't know. I'm having a hard time with that. I
am too. I mean, well, there's a practical end, and that is we don't know until the fall whether it's going to actually be ripped away. And if
it's not,
and if it got ripped away, that would be a lot of effort to push out content.
I don't know. I just think that I'd have to swallow some hard, that's something that I wrestle with all the time.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from the audience when they hear this. What do you think? Because I've been on the news quite a bit talking about the dangers of TikTok. But there's 175 million people in the U.S. who are on it who all need to be safe.
Right. Well, I know that there's a lot of people in the community that share the view that we've shared the same view that you have, and that is that it's dangerous by design, right? Like it's kind of coded in a way, it's designed in a way. The algorithm is fantastic, but it is designed in a way to capture far more of our data than we are generally aware, right? And to capture, things that really concern people when they care about privacy. But it helps people to get your message. And you do a great service to people when they hear your message, Scott. So it is something to consider, right? You want to reach the people that you,
Well,
right?
thanks
You
for being
want,
part of my therapy session this morning.
yeah. I mean, you want to reach the people that you want to help, right? And if that's the platform that they're on, maybe we use a Proton email when we sign up for it.
Well,
you know?
it doesn't even matter if we do it because we're still downloading the app on a phone or a computer.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's the issue,
I won't
right?
put the app on my computer, but
Well,
I
what
don't
are we
know.
supposed to do? Like get burner phones just to use TikTok? Am I
And-
supposed to
and
go to like
the
Walmart and
cheapest
get like a
ones will be
$9 phone to use TikTok? Like,
made in China.
yeah, made in China. So, right. And just use all different passwords when I'm doing it. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that would be a very safe way of doing it. But then we can get our message across. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that would be for those startups in Silicon Valley. That would be a good solution for you to solve. How do the people that care, that want to educate and share awareness, right? How do we use dangerous platforms or risky platforms?
And you know what's interesting? Years ago, the best advice I ever gave someone, and it was 10 years ago, was have two computers, one for work and now one for business. But even now, we've crossed so many different lines. I mean, I'm the guy who said 8 years ago I would never be on social media.
I know.
And now I got a tribe with 15,000 people on LinkedIn who are waiting for my message. That's kind of business,
Right.
So it becomes, and now we're talking about TikTok. We're talking about how we do things. And that's why to me, I have to realize that at any moment in time, the cyber criminals are going to get my stuff and I better be using, and this is the big takeaway. And I've been talking about this for decades.
Multi-factor
If you don't have
authentication.
two-factor authentication on every bit of remote access on your life, if you haven't identified your mission-critical platforms, the cyber criminals are going to get your stuff.
Right.
It's
And I mean, it gets down to that cybersecurity mindset, right? That cybersecure mindset. If you don't have a robust password system in your life, right? Like so many people, you had mentioned earlier when you come back and you do the trainings, right? Well, when I've done the trainings and I'm going back a second time to the same group, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, I took your advice. I have a really good password now. I use it on everything. And I'm like, no, that's not what we said, right? Like you have to have the reuse of passwords is really risky. It's really dangerous.
And it's really for me, and that's why I kind of created like a really basic framework that if I could go back in time and I could, and the framework, you could tell it in 2 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, or a workshop. But these are the things, if I can go back in time and I can sit with my victims, these are the points that I would tell my victims. Well, first of all, you need to understand the 4 truths. The 4 truths are what changes our behavior. You're not getting your stuff back. Nobody's going to jail, but it could be prevented. So what are these things? I want to gloss over them really quickly and then have you, if you want a deep dive. Let me tell you what my victims did not realize, and it's to this day. Number 1 is social engineering is the number 1 tool in the cyber criminals tool belt. And it is so much more than just emails. You have to understand social engineering at its finest. What is it? It's tricking us into doing things we normally wouldn't do. And now technology is assisting us. That's number 1. Number 2 is all the cyber criminals need to steal from you today to wreak havoc on your life is your username and password. The account compromise is where most data breaches are occurring for small and medium-sized businesses because they do not know where their information is. They do not know how many different cloud-based platforms they have in their organizations that they are overlooking that are not in control of. First of all, let's just assume that these small businesses do not have an information security person.
Right.
They do not realize that the HR platform, the marketing platforms, the accounts payable, the QuickBooks, all these different cloud-based platforms are what the cyber criminals want. And they're banking on a couple of things. 66% of the population is using the same password from multiple platforms. And that's the question I ask all the time. Are you using the same password from multiple platforms? Then you need to identify, you need to do this audit. And this is the audit that's being missed in all the risk assessments. All the check the box risk assessments are not looking at this. And we're setting up strong, robust passwords for each one. And then we're using two-factor authentication on every bit of those. That is 90 to 95% of today's victimizations that are occurring across the board.
And what's amazing is that while it seems arduous, it's not, right? And it would solve so much of it. And it is something that is not on most, like you said, it's not on most audits or assessments, that individual user audit, right?
Yeah. And that's why, to me, it's so important that we do this at the individual level. And when I sit here and I agree completely with that. And I'm doing my conferences and I'm speaking, I'm like, look, here's the list. Here you go. Here's my book. I have tried to change corporate behavior more than anyone. I have sat down. I mean, I could tell you stories about companies that are in the news that I have told them decades ago they need to do this. I can't change corporate behavior. I'm not trying to change it, but I can make sure you and your family stay safe.
Right.
That's my hook. That's where I end up getting into these organizations to be able to do it. That's why, for me, I'm a content creator. So I'm getting the calls from the companies that are dealing with the know-befores of this world. And they said, Scott, we're having a problem. Could you create content for our organization? And can you make it personal? And I hate to say it, if I can really give you the basic things and I tell organizations, I go, you want to make it fail? Here's what you do. Scott Augenbaum, retired FBI agents coming in to teach you how to keep the company safe. Nobody cares. Scott Augenbaum's coming in to build content to teach you how to keep your family safe and keep yourself safe. And then the C-suite's like, wait. We want to hire you to keep the company safe. And I'm like, trust me.
But if you do that, that's what we do. So when we're educating, we're doing security awareness, we give everybody that attends some take-home resources so that they can figure out how to freeze their credit, how to institute multi-factor, how to do better passwords. Because the organization benefits, don't they? I mean, if their employees, for their own interests, because they want to protect themselves, and because they want to protect their families, if they have better cyber hygiene and those habits, and they bring it a cybersecurity mindset, right? And they bring it to work with them, the organization benefits.
In theory.
Yeah.
And that's why, to me, it's just to me also, I feel like I get very frustrated at times about this. I was recently called in by an organization who said, hey, could we hire you to come talk to our board? I was like, yeah, sure. Hey, listen, easy money. This is great. I do what I love to do. And I'm like, okay, what do we got going on? Because, they're hiring me because I have this superpower that you don't have. All I get to do is say, well, when I was with the FBI, if these people just would have done this. It's a living. Don't judge me. Okay. But You
But
know,
it's good, right?
well, you
I mean,
think,
spreading
so
awareness is invaluable, in my opinion.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I think so often, and this is why, to me, I'm spending the rest of my time focusing more on individuals and organizations. No, individuals, that's why I love to say I have a passion project life. The cybersecure mindset is a passion project. And as a result of that, I get hired by companies. And if you ask me what I do, I'm an entertainer. They pay
Hmm.
me well. I check a box. And here's some of the frustrations, David. And tell me, how do you think I should reply? So I get called by an organization, a conference organizer, and they're like, hey, we'd love for you to put on. We really care about our people. Can you do a presentation for us? I go, sure, just give me an hour and a half. And they go, an hour and a half, we only can give you 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I have to remember, I'm not a government employee. You're supposed to charge as much for as doing as little as possible.
Right.
And I go, but hey, wait a second. I said, they're not going to remember anything in 2 or 3 days. I mean, let's think about it. I
Right.
said, I have a bunch of videos. I said, I'll license you the videos as part of the engagement so they can be reminders. I can come back. I said, all for the same thing. I can do a webinar. And the conference organizers get way stressed out and they're like, no, we don't need that, Scott.
Right.
We just heard you're a good speaker. Do you want the gig or not? And I'm like,
Right.
all right, I'll take the gig.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, right? When they want it done in 30 minutes to 45 minutes, it's tough. I mean,
but they pay me. I mean, let's be in all honesty. Like I sit here and I talk to my wife, and she's like, "Stop your belly aching. You get paid to do what
right.
you love to do."
I know.
So,
I hear the same thing.
but I really want to help people.
Right. Right. And even a little bit is better than an hour and a half. But it does take an hour and a half to really explain the context. Because here's what you're doing, in my opinion, is you're getting people to care. When people think generally, making a generalization, but generally when people think of cybersecurity, they think the IT department or they think the tech guys, and they think that's their job. I'm on my job. And I think the goal of spreading awareness is for them to realize, in general, every time we get online, it's everybody's job.
Absolutely.
I
And you
mean,
know how passionate I am about this? For anyone here who has listened to us and they're here, I'm going to put a little Easter egg in here. So if you have gotten this far into our podcast, go to my website, cybersecuremindset.com, and leave me a message, and I'm going to send you the audio copy of my book, The Secret to Cybersecurity. But don't put that in your show notes, okay?
okay, deal.
They have to listen to that part over here. So just
I'll
go there
do
and
that.
say, I want my book. And I'll
There
do
you go.
that.
And you will get it. And it's a good book. I will tell you. Like
Let
this,
me give you my basic plug on my book.
yeah.
If you're looking to read a good book by an FBI agent who saved the day, put a lot of bad guys in jail, and is really smart, not my book. I'm not your guy. Go wait for Darren Mott to write. Go read Darren
He's
Mott's
got a new
book.
one. Darren's
Yeah,
got
go read
some
his
new
book.
one coming out.
I love Darren.
I do too. He's
But
awesome.
I'm not the hero story, okay?
That's great.
I am not the FBI agent who saved the day. I'm the FBI agent who learned from all these bad experiences.
Yeah,
and I put
you're
together-
hearing constantly from the actual individual victims, and that gives you a unique insight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
it's
and
really
that's so
tough.
important.
It's really tough when the individuals, because after we started this podcast, we've had individuals reach out to us either on LinkedIn or YouTube or our website, and they will explain how they've been ripped off. And it's
I just
tragic.
got one last night.
Yeah, it's really tragic. And we guide them a little. But the truth is we kind of explain your four truths. We kind of explain to them, look, nothing's going to happen to these guys, right?
That's what drives
all
me,
you can
Dave.
do is learn from it. And
but when you're sitting here like I am, and this is what I tell everyone during my conferences, I'm like, take advantage of what I want to do, what I'm giving you. Because when you call me, unfortunately, I'm going to take your call, but I can't help you.
Right.
And
It's
then I
too
get
late.
some grief from the law enforcement community today. You know, I'm working with a group on pig butchering, and they really were not happy with me when I said we are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. Law
Right.
enforcement loves to do cases. They love to arrest people.
Yeah.
But
Because
when
you can close it. I mean, there is circular, there is execution at the end, and then there's a feeling, like a
I've lived this for
neurochemical
decades.
feeling that it's solved. And this isn't solved, right? Like,
For decades, I
Yeah.
experienced it, and I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm just trying to say that do we need to hire more FBI agents who can't put bad people in jail if 90 to 95% of it could be prevented?
well, I think here's the thing is the metric that you're succeeding at isn't one that is trackable or tracked. By raising awareness and preventing someone from falling forward in the first place, there's no way of tracking that. There's
Well,
no
and
way
that's-
that you can say, because of all of our combined efforts, we have educated X thousand, tens of thousands of people. They had the wherewithal not to do this and that, and therefore they didn't fall for these scams, or they didn't fall prey to this social engineering.
But
There's no way of knowing that.
one of the things that I'm exploring now is partnering with certain pieces of technology that are open to the education side. Because if you take my education piece and you tie it with identity theft protection, a
Right.
good antivirus like my friends at PCmatic, a good at-home router, if you bundle all of that stuff together, then you can make progress. Because you know what? You can listen to my training all day long. You know what? But eventually you're going to click on a link. Okay.
Right.
Eventually so there are so many pieces of technology. I'm just trying, and I'm working on a project right now because a lot of the technology, when I sit here with companies that are doing these types of things like dark web scanning, I go, what's your education platform?
Right.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? Education and technology has to be the mix.
Absolutely.
And occasionally you can see they have some chat GPT generated articles. And I'm like, so that's my project, because I hate to say it. There's times I went out, I did that conference. I told people, hey, listen, everyone here gets an audio copy of my book. Out of 70 people, 5 people took me up with it. I get it. Nobody has time to read books.
Right. But the audio is a lot more palatable for a lot of people. They could
So sometimes I can't even give it away for free.
Yeah, but with the audio aspect, you're able to do that while you're driving, while you're on the treadmill or the bike, things like that, right? Or when you're at the gym, there's a lot more opportunity to still
And
have
that's
the
where
message
I'm trying
resonate.
to really start to read some of these books, more like by Anthony Robbins, and try to condition people to do this. Because, look, I picked up the Anthony Robbins book. I read it 32 years ago when I was 20 some odd years old. And man, if I would have followed everything 32 years ago, I would have. And you know what? And I'm going to bring up that habit. I see Atomic Habits behind you, right?
Yeah, I love it. James Clear.
And I see Chris Voss's book behind you, right?
Chris is
read those
fantastic.
books. I can't tell you how many times I've read those books. And I still, like, man, I got to start enjoying the process instead of the goal. It's really, I think it's our human nature that we need the constant reinforcement. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do you do that in the world of cyber crime when people, all they want to learn about health, wealth, and relationships, not protect wealth?
Right. Well, I think that's the whole point, though, right? So I think what we have to do is, the message I'm hearing, Scott, is we have to get on TikTok with a workout video on how to get rich. And by the way, and by the way, have like a bunch of music and some rappers and some,
I'll get Darren. We'll do a viral dance.
Yeah, we'll do something like that. And then we throw in there, and by the way, change your passwords. Like that's the end message.
Hey, listen, if that'll work, I'll try it, you know.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Hey, well, before I let you go, what are some of the more memorable cases that you've worked on? Share with us something that
I don't even think they're memorable. I mean, when I was a young FBI agent, I had a blast. I mean, it was simple to define the role. Bad people did bad things to good people. I worked with state and local cops. We happened to we made the community safer.
Yeah.
In cybercrime, I hate to say it, it's the more times like I would sit here and talk to companies and companies would go, I get it. And I really do not have a lot of success stories today. I have dealt with some major Fortune 500 companies. I hate to say my efforts were wasted when I was an FBI agent. But to me, when somebody calls me up and says, hey, I put two-factor authentication. Hey, Scott, what you said really, really made sense.
Yeah.
That to me is really, really touching. Or when somebody takes me up, you know, I get asked all the time to do presentations. I get paid for them. I do just as many for free because they're good efforts. You know, I graduated community college by the skin of my teeth. I never turned down community colleges to help talk.
Never. No, not at all. Yep.
You know, I love what I do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and even though it's anecdotal, I still find when I speak to somebody who said after the education session, we've done this and we haven't been harmed since then. We don't know. We might be harmed tomorrow, but we haven't since then. And we were really under attack before. You kind of have the sense that it's helping, right? And
it's hard to quantify,
but it's really hard to measure it. It's very hard to measure it.
You know, when people were asking me, you know, hey, Scott, with your training, what's your percentage rate of changing behavior? And I'm like, that's, yeah. You know,
as soon as humans stop being humans, we'll be able to measure that stuff.
You know, you can quantify phishing training.
Sure, of course.
But you can't quantify text messages, telephone calls, account compromises, using two-factor authentication, freezing your credit, explaining to your kids about sextortion, telling your elderly parents about the government imposter syndrome. How do you quantify that?
Right. Or when they see an ad on social media and they realize that looks like a scam, or that looks like that would have adware, spyware in it, and they scroll over it, right? There's no way of knowing that. Or
even so many of us are going to Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
Which is one thing after another. But, you know,
it's like the telegram of it's like the telegram of the
but here's what's going to happen.
It can be really risky. Yeah.
You're going to be your typical consumer. You're going to find something that looks like it's 2 neighborhoods away. And the person's going to say, hey, do me a favor, send me a deposit and I'll take it off.
Yep.
So you're going to send them a $200 deposit. And all of a sudden, that's like giving someone $200 cash.
Right.
Those are the things on the cybersecure mindset. That is what's so important.
Yep. Absolutely. Scott Augenbaum, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. For listeners, we will have a link to your website in the show notes, but for the listeners that listened this way through, you know to reach out to Scott and request the audio copy of the book.
You a copy of my book. I'll even say it again.
It's a good book. Useful stuff. Well, Scott, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. And we thank you for all you do. Just keep doing it. And
awesome.
And we very well may see you on TikTok at some point. We don't know. Never say never.
Listen, I got 2 friends who said to me, I will, you know, when I told them I'd never be on LinkedIn. Okay, so I guess you can edit out the rest and stuff. This was a fun time, Dave.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Well, that wraps this up. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our episode. The next one is coming right up. We appreciate you making this an award-winning podcast and downloading on Apple and Spotify and subscribing to our YouTube channel. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and we thank you for watching.